All right, we're here today back on the channel, Survive and Thrive, and I wanted to go over a company that I covered about 6 months ago, and that is Novavax, NVAX. Starting right into it, in this Reuters article, India allows export of 20 million Novavax vaccine doses to Indonesia. The vaccine at this time, made by the Serum Institute, was yet to be approved in India. India was to export 10 million Covishield doses to COVAX in December, and India hopes to fully vaccinate nearly all adults by January. So this was as of November 19th, right before the Thanksgiving holiday. And as this notes, the shot, which the Serum Institute of India calls Covavax, has an emergency use authorization in Indonesia, but not in India. And SII told Reuters last month it could produce up to 100 million Covavax doses by December. SII's chief executive told Reuters last month his family-run company was expecting to export 20 to 30 million Covishield doses to COVAX in November and an equal amount in December, with much bigger volumes from January once India's own needs were near fully met. So this is very positive news to see that they're actually starting to produce through the Novavax vaccine and getting some authorizations here into play. Now, once India is able to really start taking this on, that should significantly boost revenues, which should drive up the share price, because as I said in my last coverage of this company, I don't think that Novavax has heard their best news yet. And so that's why I continue to hold my shares that I bought into back in March or April of 2020. And so it is going to be a little bit of a longer term hold for me. It has been quite the roller coaster ride, as you'll see once I get into the price action that's happened over the last year or so. And with biotech stocks, you really have to just take it that it is a lot of up and down volatility and a roller coaster ride, if nothing else. One of the sources said the government first wanted to make sure it had enough doses to fully inoculate nearly all of India's 944 million adults, likely by January. The tentative target is to have some 1.7 billion doses in total. So as this plays out, their Q3 earnings report came out in early November. And so we haven't seen what earnings will look like as we get into the Q4. So I'll be interested in watching very closely to see what happens with that. And then I know that also Novavax is pushing to get approval in partnership with South Korea. So they are making a international play with other countries to try and boost getting their vaccine distributed. And I think that's a great way to go about it, because here in the United States, I think they've missed the boat on being able to really gain off of their product. But there is still a lot of potential out there for them to gain a huge market share globally. And always in the background is their phase 3 FDA approved NanoFlu, which they had talked at one point about having a combination flu and COVID shot. So more to come on that. And I just see that looking ahead, I still want to hold out to see if they can get above the $300 mark per share. They have been there once before at their all-time high. And I think once they do get a lot of this news, when it's to their favor, it will really help to pump up the price of this stock. And at that point, I'll be looking in terms of what I want to do with the position that I currently have. This latest article in Motley Fool, December 10th, what in the world is going on with Novavax stock? And just to give my quick answer on this, is you can see the share price one day and it will be in the 120 to 140 range. And all of a sudden, a few days later, it'll be at $160 to $180 per share. So like I said, very volatile, and it can be hard to stomach sometimes if you're not looking at the big picture. The key points: Novavax hasn't been a stable stock over the last year. Fears about the Omicron variant spell uncertainty for the company's vaccine's role. Manufacturing issues continue to be a painful stumbling block. And they note it here. It's a cliche to say that certain stocks are like roller coaster rides, but the coronavirus vaccine developer Novavax has given a completely new meaning to the term over the last 12 months. While it's up more than 64% this year, in the last 3 months, shareholders have taken losses of about 27%, which means that many of the people who bought shares at the peak early this year are likely to be displeased. And like I mentioned, I bought so long ago that you can go back and take a look at that video that I did in June. Look up here in the upper right hand corner, go to that link, and you can see my journey into buying into this company, what cost basis I bought in, and compare that to current day's price. It's been a tremendous ride and absolute monumental gains. Still, in the last month alone, Novavax stock has climbed sharply as the company scored crucial approvals for its vaccine and started commercialization of its vaccine in international markets, like the Philippines and Indonesia. And the Omicron variant appears to have juiced it even further. But as a result of even more delays with its manufacturing and the filing of a class action lawsuit by shareholders, things are far from settled. Especially for investors who are wondering whether to keep holding Novavax, it's worth investigating what's going on in more detail. And this article goes further on to say delays that keep piling up, which that has been true for the last 6 to 8 months, and it does make you wonder whether this is really one that you want to hang on for, or whether they've passed their opportunity because of them having so many delays. Now, it's noted here the Omicron factor, as troublesome as getting Novavax vaccine out the door has been, long-term shareholders have experienced plenty of upside as the pandemic has worn on. In particular, the need for booster shots led the company to start investigating its candidate for suitability as an additional dose. If it is effective as a booster, it'll be yet another opportunity to make more revenue from global sales. That will be especially good for shareholders if the vaccine is found to be effective against the Omicron variant, which has so far been a wild card. Despite the company's announcement on December 2nd that it was pursuing a vaccine specific to the Omicron variant, its stock cratered through December 6th due to general panic in the market about the efficacy of the existing vaccines and soon-to-be-released candidates. Then, as panic eased, Novavax shares surged by more than 28.8% on December 7th, after European regulators said that the company's vaccine could be on the brink of approval. Good news about its step towards commercialization will send the stocks higher, but new findings about Omicron could easily reverse the situation once again. And it is, as this article states, a high-risk moment. So for the moment, Novavax is a risky stock for new investors. For those who bought in at one of the many low points of 2021, it's probably worth holding at least a bit longer. There's no telling when the stock will recapture its early year highs, especially considering the difficulty with manufacturing enough doses to honor its commitments to paying customers. And that's why, for me, I'm going to continue to hold because, like I said, they have not heard their best news yet. And once they do, I will be paying attention very closely. And if we see some new all-time highs, I'll be considering selling out half my position or completely getting out of this one and moving on to another opportunity. In Investor Place, there was this article 6 days ago. Dear Novavax stock fans, mark your calendar for a key catalyst on December 16th. And this will be in very good favor for investors who have bought in early, because if this actually does go through, I see the share valuation jumping up significantly. The Omicron variant is continuing to spread across the globe, with new cases being detected every day. As medical experts scramble to examine still emerging data to find the answers everyone is seeking, pharmaceutical producers have been working around the clock to provide both vaccines and treatments to help combat the newest threat. So as of the morning of this article, the World Health Organization's Strategic Advisory Group Committee will meet on December 16th. So that's a date that you're going to want to mark if you're a holder in this company, or if you have interest in what's happening with this stock price action. This meeting is to discuss granting EUA emergency use authorization to Novavax for its recombinant nanoparticle protein-based COVID-19 vaccine, Covavax, like I talked about at the beginning of this video. While it hasn't done much for NVAX stock so far, this is definitely good news for the biotech company. And as it states here, continued price action with investors not really quite sure how it's going to impact Novavax specifically or the overall industry in biotech. But for me, it's just one that I'm going to continue to hold. Already up significant gains, and I think that I can get it to climb a little higher before I really sell out and maximize my profit. Why? This isn't the first time that Novavax has received good news from abroad. On the contrary, most of its pandemic growth has stemmed from success in international markets. Last week, investor places Nevalier argued that the pandemic's new developments were likely to provide international growth opportunities for the stock. In the early days of the Omicron variant, Novavax was identified as a stock to watch as experts hypothesized that the stock was ready to take off due to its early progress in combating the variant. As variant infection cases have risen, so have reports that Novavax stock will be among the winners of this section of the vaccine race. What it means for Novavax stock? All this supports the argument that Novavax is primed to emerge as a breakout vaccine stock as investors contemplate an uncertain market landscape. While we're currently watching and wait, the next 10 days will be quite telling to see how the stock reacts to mounting anticipation. Of course, the regulatory decisions can go one of two ways. If the WHO decides against granting Novavax the authorization it needs, the stock will likely either fall or remain stagnant. However, this depends on how much growth it sees in the days leading up to this important catalyst. Regardless, for the time being, Novavax is definitely a stock worth watching. And I am very excited to see. You're going to want to watch and mark that date on your calendar. If that approval goes through, I guarantee that there's going to be a jump in the price action for this stock. Let's take a look here just to close out this video coverage that I'm doing for today on Novavax. I'll go to the 5 years so that I can actually grab when I bought in. As I mentioned, it was in the March-April timeframe. So I was somewhere in about the $10 cost basis. And one heck of a roller coaster, right? $170 August 7th of that year, dropping all the way back down to $80. And then parabolic gains as we entered into the first part of 2021, all the way up to $290. And at one time during that time period, we were up over $300. And then as time went on, delays, news that they weren't going to be able to produce, not finishing their clinical trials within certain countries affected this. $130. And then we're all over the place, $260 in August. So just going from just a few months, right? $170, $130 all the way up to $257. So that's more than $120 per share. That's absolutely incredible for that short time span. But like I said, it is just so volatile up and down, just like a roller coaster. And if you can't stomach it and not able to manage the risk, then I know a lot of investors probably exited early. But like I said, since I bought in at the time I did, I am way up on my gains. So I'm going to continue to ride this roller coaster out and see if this latest great news is going to help them pump again and get close to that $300 mark or over. And then I'll be considering what my decision will be at that point. That's really all I had to cover today. Please leave any comments below about Novavax in particular, or if there's other biotech companies out there that you're watching or want to share about with our YouTube followers. And definitely, if you liked what was covered in the video today, make sure you hit that like button. That helps it get out to the rest of the YouTube community to be able to learn more about investing and the success stories that are out there. And as I've mentioned before, I'm continuing to build my community here on YouTube. I've got 110 subscribers, and I want to quickly scale that up to 1,000. I know it's going to take me probably the better part of next year, but I can only do that with each and every one of you. So make sure to hit subscribe, turn on that bell, And I'll be continuing to upload weekly content covering everything from free financial advice, stocks that I'm either invested in or thinking about trying to take a position in, and doing reviews, as well as the crypto space, investing in crypto, NFTs, as well as NFT gaming. As always, be good out there, make it a great week, and don't just survive, thrive!